afternoon, class. How are you today? Good.
Good.
Anyone? Allison, how are you today?
I'm really tired.
Well, hopefully we can pick that up with some interesting information.
Okay.
So I want to make sure, just as we start off this thing, that everyone got their note sheet when they came in. Does everyone have one?
Yeah.
How about you, Todd? Do you have one?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. So today we're going to talk about a few questions here before we get started. So let me ask you these. Have any of you been sick within the last year at least once?
Sick Todd. No.
You never get sick.
What kind
You're
of
lucky.
sick? Yeah, I've been sick.
How about you, Todd? Were you sick at all this year?
A little bit.
A little bit. Do you know what caused it?
My dog, she had ringworm.
That's gross, Todd.
Ew.
I got ringworm.
Are you even allowed to do here?
Well, that is an interesting sickness, isn't it? We'll actually go over that later in another lesson. So for the rest of us, do we know what caused it, as in was it a bacteria or a virus? No ideas?
Well, ringworm is
A parasite.
a parasite.
It's a fungus.
It's a fungus.
Oh yeah, it is a fungus.
Fungus.
Look at that. So we're going to stick today to bacteria and viruses, which cause most of our common sicknesses, and what also causes the most common ailments in animals, since we are in our vet science class. So why do we need to learn about bacteria and viruses? Any ideas?
If we have animals and they're sick, we might have to determine if it's a virus or if it's a bacteria, so we can decide what type of treatment it should.
Exactly. So that's kind of where we're going today. We're going to learn about bacteria and viruses in order to figure out how you would treat them, or to have a regular healthcare plan to make sure that you don't acquire these things, possibly in your livestock. So as you can see on your worksheets, we'll start out with viruses. We're just going to do a quick rundown here. So viruses and bacteria are not the same thing. A virus is a microscopic, who knows what that means?
You can't
Really
see it
little.
with your eye.
Exactly, it's really small.
Yeah.
Non-living. Crystalline. Structure. So if you would like to fill in these notes that are pertinent to you on your sheet. And it is non-living because they do not metabolize food for energy. So I believe that's one of your questions right up front. And that's why it's classified as non-living. So it needs a host in order to live.
Todd, you're the host.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's trying to tell you that you carry viruses, Todd.
Just one this.
Just one. All right. So now we'll go to bacteria, and that is described.
You didn't tell us how viruses reproduce.
Viruses reproduce by injecting genetic material into a host cell. So they basically like take it over, like an invasion. And then the
Like Star
host,
Wars.
right? And then the host cell multiplies and creates more of the virus.
You didn't tell us why viruses aren't alive.
Viruses are non-living because they do not metabolize food for energy. So unlike the rest of us, they don't have to eat for energy.
They just eat us. That's what they do for energy.
So we'll skip down real quick here to bacteria, which is single-celled, and it can live on its own, or free living, or it can be parasitic and use a host. So your bacteria doesn't need to invade another cell to replicate or produce itself. Alright, so why did we learn these things today about viruses and bacteria? You said something earlier, Ned, about healthcare?
Yeah, if our animals get sick, we need to know if it's a virus or bacteria because you would treat them differently.
Awesome. So I'm going to read you a little scenario from a local farmer. They've contacted us and their vet came out and inspected some of their animals. And this is what the vet told them. So from what we learned today, I would like to see if you can figure out whether this animal has a viral element or if it is a bacteria. Is everyone ready?
I don't understand what single circle of double-stranded DNA means.
That is the arrangement of the DNA. So there, for each bacteria, there is only a single, what would look like a piece of the double helix DNA, which is what you have in your bodies.
Oh. Is that the same thing as RNA?
No, RNA is ribonucleic acid, and this is deoxy. So it's two. But we'll actually revisit that a little bit later when we go into the shapes, because we're going to learn about those later when we look at slides of different diseases. So we'll get into that a little bit further if we need any more clarification later. But is everyone ready to hear our story about what the vet said? Finish with their notes? All right. So our cow Sally has a terrible ailment, says this farmer. The ailment was caused due to a lack of sanitary milking practices, unfortunately. The vet described her ailment as single-celled. It can survive independently or as a parasite. It is also prokaryotic, which is characterized by the absence of a membrane around the nucleus, which I'm sure we all learned about in our biology classes, right?
No.
No.
I don't know what
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
And eukaryote.
Yes. Allison, can you explain to her the difference so that we can continue on? Do you know?
Prokaryotic is single cell? No. So prokaryotic are bacteria. And eukaryotic are plant cells, right?
Good job. And
There's a
they
reason why. I forget.
have an absence of membrane bound
That's it.
nucleus.
Membrane around the nucleus.
So that's what holds it all.
It's all coming back.
That's what holds it all together, right? So from these few characteristics, can we figure out, does this animal have a bacteria or viral ailment?
Well, it's certainly sick.
It is, that's why the vet was out.
I think it's bacteria because you said it's single cell. And it doesn't need something to live on, which viruses do in order to reproduce.
Awesome.
We're gonna host a party with the viruses.
Alright guys, so basically what we were doing today is we needed to figure out the characteristics of bacteria and viruses because that's going to help set us up for our unit. So our unit essential question was what should be involved in a health management plan. So in order to think about how diseases and health occur, we have to understand what causes them, and a little bit of background on those. So we went through our notes. So as our problem solving for our entire lesson and what we're going for our entire unit plan is to figure out what we need in a healthcare problem, and today, am I a virus or a bacteria? So that was our evaluation. So that's our big essential questions so that we all can focus on where we're headed. And later this week, we'll learn more about what the farmer's cows actually had. Does anyone have an idea of what they might have had?
Mastitis.
Awesome, you guys are really smart. So mastitis is a bacterial infection, and that is one of the diseases or ailments that we're going to look at later on in our veterinary science.